I'm happy to be here with all of you. You are the people who shape the country's future. There is no doubt about it. The students that you produce are going to be the people who run this country in the future. And therefore, you are extremely critical for any vision which we have of 2047, Amrit Kaal, as our Honorable Prime Minister says. Amrit Kaal will be shaped by your hands. And I think that's the critical role that you have. Education is transformative. At school level, you get a foundation, and at the college level, you're equipped with the skills and the capabilities that make you successful in life later on. And I think that's very, very important. It prepares the youth for the future. It equips them for the future. And then, as some of my colleagues have said earlier, we are at some interesting points in history. We have become the world's most populous nation. It's a matter of pride, but also a challenge. The demographic dividend can also become a demographic burden if you don't handle it well. I think it's very, very important. You're very young. Your median age is 29. Half the people in India are below 29 years of age. The median age in China is 39. And you just heard the problem China is facing. 2047, our median age will be 39. So you should remember, we don't have too much time. 25 years may look long, but it's 75 years since independence. Time flies. And 25 years will pass very fast. So we have just this window of 25 years to actually exploit the demographic potential that is there in front of us. That means a lot, and that leads to a lot of reflection that we need to do. We have come a long way since 1947. If you take the university system, it's gone up about 60 times. From 20 universities to about 1,200 universities in these 75 years. That's a 60x expansion. College system has gone up even more, gone up by about 44 times. From about 1,000 colleges to 44,000 colleges. And I think the most dramatic thing is the enrollment of that age profile was about 0.7%. It's slightly about 25% now. 1/4 of the children actually go to college at the college going age. But of course, that compares quite poorly with other countries. 60-65% is common. Countries like South Korea go to 80-85%. But if you look at the numbers in schools and in colleges, it's also seen a dramatic jump. From something like 2 lakh students in the university and college system at the time of independence, today we have crossed 4 crores. It looks good. The challenge is in the future. With all these youth now going into college in future, we have 2 challenges. The population will increase for a while, will stabilize around 165 crores, that's what modeling show. And you also want the enrollment rate to go from 27% to somewhere around 50-60% at least. The college going student force would go up from about 4 crores to 8 or 9 crores. So, you need 1,000 more universities from the 1,000 you have today. Alternatively, the 1,000 universities will have to accommodate twice the number of students. So, there's a huge opportunity and a huge challenge also. A lot of this, the government system is constrained. And I know the preponderance of people here are actually from the private sector. The government system is choked. The government has a primary responsibility to provide education and healthcare. But when it comes to higher education, particularly, it's probably going to be a mix of both. Part of it is going to come from government and part of it is going to come from the private. But there is an imbalance because on the government side, when the government of India is putting a lot of money in higher education, bulk of higher education on the government side happens in the state sector, not in the central sector. Almost 40% of the money in education now is coming from government of India, but 75% of the students who go to colleges are in state universities. That's the interesting point. And we add a couple of more other variations about state recognized universities and all, it's 95%. So, the states are fiscally strained. They do not have the capacity. If you go to any state government and see what they are doing in universities, they are paying salaries. The budget outside salary is about 5%. So you will see that there is no R&D, there is no equipment, there is no capacity expansion, there are no facilities, no hospitals. Where will this all come? It will come from the private sector. So I'm extremely happy that, over these 2 days, a lot of things are going to be discussed in this workshop. And I've seen the themes that you're going to discuss over the next 2 days. SDGs, globalizing higher education, innovation and entrepreneurship, EdTech, quality assurance, social responsibility. I think these are the 6 themes which are going to be, debated over the next 2 days. Each and every one of them is very, very important. But I would like to throw out some points which you should think through in different sessions as we go along. First, which I mentioned, is the challenge of numbers. We will have to go from about 4 crore children in the college university system to 9 crores. How are we going to do it? I think this is that. And this is a big, big question. Are you going to have, double the number of government universities? I don't know whether state governments have the capacity. How many new state universities have come up in the last 20 years? Nothing remarkable. You have a lot of IITs and IIMs, might, but they are a drop in the ocean. The big things actually are going to come from the private sector. At least half of this expansion from 4 to 9 crores will happen in the private sector. So this is something to be seen. But then there's a second side to that same coin. Because if you don't do it the right way, a lot of these 4 or 5 crore additional children are going to go abroad for study. That's the international challenge you're facing. Every year, the numbers vary depending on how you count, but about 13 lakh children go out of India to study. 13 lakhs. And we are spending, depending on how you count, anywhere between $6 to $8 billion on education around the world. That almost matches Government of India's expenditure on higher education in India. The question, and this is the big thing, is while the private sector can probably expand the university system to accommodate more, how are you going to get these high-paying students not to go abroad and come and stay in India? I'm sure there are great examples. I think my symbiosis on the dais is one of those ones. You can think of many more ways which are actually keeping children back in India. But I think it needs to be done on a much, much larger scale. And for that, you'll have to think, how do I increase my brand value? How do I increase my attractiveness? People don't go to education to get a degree. That's for government clerks. Because government has this condition, you have to have a BA. So they'll go to any college and get a BA somehow. The people are going to go to your colleges and are not looking for that. They're looking for skills and capacities which actually can make them employable in the private sector. So I think that's very, very important. How do I increase and improve my university's position to be employable? That's how this expansion will happen. For me, internationalization in this sense of Indian students going abroad to study is your biggest threat. You go to South Bombay, Soho as they say, or South Delhi, I think 8 out of 10 kids are all writing SATs and whatnot, etc., and they're in the first flight away. But when sometimes I see on some of these private sector campuses, I feel heartened that you are providing facilities on par with the best in the world, probably at 1/3 or 1/4 the cost. But it's not only the physical facilities, but it's also the academic facilities that need to be there, and they will certainly be then incentivized to stay back in India. And that money will remain inside. Of course, the Prime Minister, I think, yesterday in Man Ki Baat said that, all these rich families don't go abroad to celebrate your marriages. There are venues in India, go to Udaipur, go to Himachal, go to some other part and do your weddings in India. And that money would actually be in India and it will employ a lot of people. So I think there is a need to look at this, the expansion of capacity. The second point, which my previous speaker mentioned, is about actually getting your educational system revamped in a way that your students are industry ready. I've learned a lot in college, and I think it has helped me in my career a lot. It may not be exactly the courses I did, but it's the overall things that I learned. It doesn't matter. You may not apply it on day 1, day 2, but you will apply it at some point. And that's why companies still come to you to recruit. If universities were a waste, companies would recruit class 12 students and educate themselves. They can easily do it. But they still come to you. And that's it. I was brainstorming with some people a couple of days ago, automotive sector. And a lot of this automotive is in Pune and Chennai. That's the 2 hubs, and outside the NCR. They do a lot of work. They say we engage the local engineering institutions to train our employees and work with them. I said, look, what do those teachers know about modern manufacturing techniques, etc.? That stuff is there in your factories. Colleges are not equipped to do all that. They said, no, the students need a theoretical background. So the colleges do the theoretical background. We teach them the latest manufacturing techniques on plant. So I think we need to be more innovative. Which universities in India have a co-op program? Does our UGC system allow people to take a year or 2 off, go to industry, work, and then come back? It's not there in India. I may be wrong. There may be 1 or 2 which are doing it. We do it as internships. A co-op program is actually you take a full semester or 2 off, work and come back. All good universities have that kind of system in technical education. It should be there in MBAs also. You take a year off, work and come back, and that counts for your credits. So, these are the kind of stuff which makes your student. Changing your curriculum. I know it's a challenge, but since you're all in universities, I think you have freedom in bringing your curriculum online, and that's the second. The third thing is, and this is very important, technology is going to blow up your sector. And I'm saying that in a very deliberate way. It's going to be changed in manners you actually cannot imagine sitting in this hall. You have seen this whole revolution of EdTech, which is about online learning, etc. You've seen the pros and cons my previous speaker said. It's going to be much, much more than that. What AI, machine learning and all are going to do to education, I mean, how do you prevent your students actually from giving you homework, which actually they haven't done, but ChatGPT has done. This is a coding now is going to be there as a part of their, toolkit, which can be done online and come back. So these are going to be big challenges. AI is being used in UAE in education. Really. So this is going to come in a big way into your campuses, and you will have to get ready. It's going to be the next wave. I would like actually FICCI and the education vertical in FICCI to have a separate day somewhere on how is AI going to affect the education system. It will affect you on the teaching side, it will affect you on the student side, it will affect you on the employability side. There are going to be jobs which are going to vanish, but there will be new jobs that we create. So I think this is something this is the coming wave. And we in government are terrified, governments across the world are terrified about this. Not terrified about mankind being doomed, but terrified about how it will change our ways of working. So we need to be ahead of the curve. The other thing is, there is a session, innovation and entrepreneurship. This is something where I think we can have a genuine cause of complaint, slightly in the government sector, but quite a lot in the private sector also, as far as education is concerned. We have all these buzzwords about experiential learning, creating an atmosphere where there is innovation. There is a big problem in our ecosystem, and that's related to both innovation as well as R&D. The way India has developed since 1947, R&D has not developed in the university system. We have created isolated pillar called CSIR. So you have DST, DBT, Department of Earth Sciences. It's all happening in labs which have nothing to do with university. When you go to Berkeley, you'll have the Fermi lab there. You go to Stanford, you'll get something there. You go to MIT, you get something there. The best research, be it science or non-science subjects, or the fine arts, is actually happening in the university system. In India, unfortunately, it's got divorced. So our R&D system suffers because it has no touch with reality in terms of what's happening in the educational side. The education system doesn't benefit from the research. In one of the reasons for the ranking of Indian universities is low is because on the R&D side we rank very, very low as far as universities are concerned. I think there is a need to bring these back again together. Extremely important. And here I'll make an offer. I told that there are a lot of white channels in the room. NITI has a very, very, very small budget for research. We surrender 80% of it. If anybody wants to do a research on any non-science and technology project, make an offer. I have made it. We've called a lot of all the known institutions that we said, the known suspects, CREER, NCAR, IGIDR, everybody, we've called some local Redefining channels, everybody is here. Please send out, we want to promote more research in social sciences here. We have the budgets, we will do it. It will help you come up with papers, it will help government, because we'll give you topics which are relevant to, government policy making also. But coming back to the innovations, trial and error, and also the financing. So you got the San Francisco belt, which is there, San Jose, etc. Again, good university, a culture of startups, financiers, entrepreneurs, everything there. You have something in and around Cambridge. It has taken there. It's actually not that they will be great entrepreneurs. They've come up with a lot of nice, interesting stuff. One of them actually patented it and gone ahead. But the whole idea is to create a scientific temper among the youth, so that people shouldn't be afraid. Some of the older people will remember when Rajiv Gandhi first introduced computers in government offices. They used to be nicely on a desk with a plastic cover. Nobody would touch it. You need to break the ice, and when children learn to play with gadgets early on in life, they become more savvy. But the second part, we fund incubation centers. We have funded about 100 Atal incubation centers across the country. The whole idea is we need more of those. I think universities should think of that. We are no longer funding any more incubation centers, because I think in an established model, with all the higher education department, you take it up so that now you fund 100 a year, because the model is set. But we are going in different ways. We're going into vernacular incubation centers because we need incubation in local languages also. We are looking at deep tech, funding that, creating that ecosystem. After understanding it, we'll hand it over to the department to do it. But I think universities can think of that. Anybody wants to look at incubation in some new ways, please write to our Atal Innovation Mission. There's a mission directly from outside the government, and I think that'll be there. Now I'll address the last issue which I said earlier, and then I like, which about internationalization. I look at internationalization a different way. There are two things here. India is going to be the provider of the largest workforce in the world for the next 25 years. In a couple of years, they're going to be 1/5 of the world's working age population. Working age. The only other place which is going to rival India in terms of producing working age people is Africa. People don't realize Africa as a whole has a lower population than India. In a couple of years, they'll overtake us. That will be the other useful part of the world other than India. So, and that should be one of the goals of the university system in India. And it's not the university, non-university, the skilling system also. Equips our students to take up jobs around the world. India's oil import bill is equal to the remittances that come from around the world. That actually sees that our trade doesn't go haywire. So, we are going to be the workforce around the world. Nurses, doctors, lawyers, engineers. We are there. This is the global factory of good quality employees. And I think that's something we should look at. I mean, people could even think of creating an industry group or education setup group which can actually hunt for skills needed around the world and then funnel it back to the universities so that universities can train students with skills for the future. What is short? I'm telling you, US has gone for massive semiconductor production. I mean, this is news I read Washington Post, I learned that. So, all this thing about friend shoring, near shoring, let's get out of China, Taiwan, wherever, and get your semiconductor. They don't have semiconductor manufacturing engineers. And to train a semiconductor manufacturing engineer is 6 years. So the factory will come with no workers. This is a crisis. So they've gone on a crash program to increase the number of people. So actually, if there is a scanning of the horizon, it can help the university system prepare students for jobs that are needed around the world. I've negotiated an Australia free trade agreement, and what I realized there is a hunger for Indian skills in many areas. People are not really cooks, farmers. The UK FTA started about to get concluded. Their need for nurses, doctors, the NHS will collapse without Indian nurses. So they're huge. The second part of internationalization for us is we would like to have more and more foreign students coming to India. The two big hubs in India for foreign students coming to India and study are Pune and Chandigarh. These are actually the most, a bit in Bangalore, but these two are the hubs. We need more of that. Our goal, and we are preparing a NITI vision for 2047. A lot of the stuff we are trying to address. And sometime in January also the Prime Minister will release the vision, what we call Vikasit Bharat in 2047. Education has a separate role in it. And one of the things we are targeting is that by 2047, we should have 500,000 foreign students in India, 5 lakhs. We should become a global provider of education. How will that happen? That will happen if we improve our quality, if we improve our brand value, we are globally recognized for what we provide, and we improve our rankings. And we begin chatting, Our NRF rankings are of a type, but we need rankings which are globally recognized. I mean, we have a Times Higher Education Index, the QS ranking. The Chinese didn't like the board. They set up their own ranking by which is not global. Everybody sees that also. It is called Shanghai something like this or whatever. Why doesn't there be a Bharat ranking or whatever? We start also ranking the Harvard and the Stanford from our perspective. And then we do it. I mean, that's a thought which I'm leaving aside. Let's see how we carry it forward. But we should be targeting foreign students to come to India. After all, we have a very good teaching culture. And there are large parts, I'm not saying that the Americans and the Europeans are going to come to India. But what is the other continent which is as big as India in population? It's Africa. You've got Southeast Asia. You've got Central Asia. They will all probably come to India if we actually expand our system, do a good job. English is the dominant language in the world. And that's whatever it is, we like it or not, it's an inherited advantage, Probably the French had colonized us, you have been talking different. We speak a language which the computers speak. The biggest thing is coding is done in English. Okay, so we've had an unfair advantage historically now. But let's leverage that, become a global powerhouse in education, both for domestic students and for international students, and then we'll realize the vision of Vikasit Bharat. Wish you all the well. Outstanding topic. Thank you very much.